If a successful leader is to be a producer, he or she must master the art of delegation. Hello again, everyone. I'm Eli's dad with Project Eli, where we educate, we lead, and we inspire. We are working on Leadership Secrets of Attila the Hun, a book by a gentleman named Wes Roberts, which is a fabulous book. Strongly recommend that you read it. And we are doing little pieces of what it takes to be a great leader. And right now we are on the art of delegation, so let's get right to it. Our nation cannot prevail as the dominant world power if its leadership is contained to one man. Even I, Attila, cannot accomplish for you what you're not willing to accomplish for yourselves. You must be willing to accept the responsibilities that I choose to delegate to you. At the same time, your charters are too great for you to accomplish alone. You must trust to your subordinate leaders those responsibilities that fit their offices. Ours is too great and too complex a nation for even such as I, Attila, to direct and lead every action. I must entrust you with certain important duties as chieftains of your various tribes. If I cannot, we're destined to wander as small bands of nomads. This gathering is for the purpose of my imparting to you my counsel regarding the leadership principle of delegation, which is central to your success as chieftains. Judgment, experience, and the incumbent duties of office dictate the order of delegation. Now, I cannot simply counsel that applies to each act of delegation. Nonetheless, I can provide counsel useful to you in the act and art of delegation. Learn these precepts well, or your burden will be too great to accomplish those responsibilities in your charge. All right, let's get to it. From Attila, from Wes Roberts, and then let's see how things are practical here. Chieftains should never delegate responsibilities necessitating their direct attention. So how do you decide what acts you need to perform personally as the leader and which ones do you delegate? Got a simple rule for that. It's the 80-20 rule. If a person has the capability of performing the task at least 80% as well as you yourself could perform it, then you delegate it. All right? 80-20 rule. That's how you decide. Very simple. Those actions that don't require a chieftain's direct handling are appropriately delegated to the one most able to fulfill the assignment. This requires the skill of knowing who to assign tasks to. It's called the division of labor. You know, as I mentioned before, in my house, the wife was the one that was very handy around the house, and I was good at cooking. Normally, those roles are reversed, but the division of labor dictated I handled the cooking. Trust me, I needed to handle the cooking, and trust me, she needed to handle being handy around the house. So you need to figure out who will perform that particular function the best, and it's key that you have a division of labor that's going to work. Wise chieftains grant both authority and responsibility to those they have delegated assignments. One of the things that you have to remember as a leader is that people are always looking to you. Now, whenever there was a meeting that I was going to be attending and I was the leader, I knew that if I walked in and sat at the table, that everybody would be looking at me to see what my reaction was to the person running the meeting. So how do you do that? Very simple. You either sit in the back of the room so that everybody is facing the person that is leading the group, or you sit at the back of the table. The idea is make sure that the attention is given to the person that is in charge of that meeting. Does that make sense? You want to keep the focus off yourself and on the person that's in charge. Wise chieftains always hold their subordinates accountable for delegated assignments. One of the things you want to do, the major thing, you have certain goals, objectives, ambitions that you want to fulfill as a leader. One of the most important objectives is to develop other leaders. One of the things that you must know, that you must recognize, is that accountability is required for growth of any individual. You do the same thing as a parent, all right? You give your child an assignment and you hold them accountable for it. Very simple. And the law works the same way. I mean, you hold your child responsible, a child gets in trouble, guess what? They come and they look for you because you're the parent. But in order for people to grow, you have to give accountability for performing the function. Worthy chieftains accept full responsibility for all assignments, even those they have delegated to their subordinates. Once again, that's what I'm talking about. Let's suppose, your child gets into trouble and what happens? All right, well, the kid's in trouble, but they don't blame the kid. They blame the parent. You're the parent. When you're the leader, you're the parent, very simply stated. You want to accept that responsibility as the leader. You're responsible for the outcome of the whole group. Don't back away from that fact. Very, very simple. Once a chieftain has delegated responsibilities, he should never interfere, lest his subordinates come to believe that the duties are not truly theirs. Such superficial delegation yields fury in the hearts of subordinates. Once again, it's important that you have a particular vision, a particular dream, a particular objective. Part of that is always developing your leaders. You can't develop someone unless you delegate responsibility to them. And sometimes the mission that you assign is maybe a little bit beyond what they're capable of doing. Once again, we're mirroring the success formula. Just as you, in your attempt to be more successful, remember the success formula. You got to stretch just a little bit beyond your reach, just a little beyond your capabilities. You've got to let your subordinates that you assign tasks to stretch beyond their reach a little bit. Any task has detours, and part of a success is creating a new starting line. Just as on the success formula, when you're running an organization, when you're delegating responsibilities, if you want your people to grow, they have to recognize you're going to make mistakes. There's always going to be detours. There's always going to be new starting lines. There are levels of achievement which are best reached through trial and error. You will get your growth of your leaders to be more expedient if you allow them to make mistakes and correct their mistakes, and then they will learn from it. A lesson learned from trial and error sticks much more than one that you just tell somebody, hey, here's what's wrong. Let them do it, let them figure it out, let them make mistakes, as long as it's not going to kill your whole enterprise. Let them make mistakes and let them learn from that. When asked to, a chieftain should assist a subordinate with his delegated tasks. Otherwise, the subordinate may fail because he is not yet of the mettle necessary to fulfill the assignment. Here's a mistake that people in the beginning stages of running an organization often make. They try and perform every single function that there is. You can't do that if you want your organization to grow. The organization will be limited, and you're not helping the growth of the people in your entourage. What you have to do is, if you have somebody that has, the hash marks that's proven, hey, they can do it, then you delegate to that. But sometimes you're in a situation where you don't have anybody. You're just starting out. So what you have to do is you have to insert a smiling face. You have to make a judgment and say, this person has potential. Okay, I'm going to give him this assignment or give her this assignment and let them run with it. Now, sometimes you're going to have to jump right in the box with them to help them perform that function. But if you don't have someone that has proven their mettle and you have to get a job done, assign it to a smiling face, someone that you think has potential, and just monitor closely. Give that person an opportunity. Realize that a chieftain cannot accomplish every responsibility of his office by himself. Should he prove otherwise, a leader must understand that he is, in fact, chieftain over little or nothing at all. Growth depends upon accepting new and greater challenges. We're talking about that, the growth of your organization, the growth. You can only grow as an organization as much as your people grow. Leaders lead, they don't perform all of the labor. Then growth is limited to their physical capabilities, the capabilities of one person. And that's putting a ceiling on how much you can grow, because one person can only do so much. You need to have a team around you. You need to delegate. You need to assign to other people, but you need to always inspect what they're doing to make sure it's right, but give them the opportunity. A competent chieftain will delegate important assignments to even inexperienced subordinates in order that he might accomplish his mission, develop his subordinate skills, and demonstrate loyalty for and trust in his subordinates. Building confidence sometimes involves taking risks, but it's a win-win situation for you. How is it a win-win situation? You assign the task. If they perform it completely, you've built confidence, you're developing a leader, and your organization is growing. And if they fail at the function, then you've learned, hey, this is not the person that I need to be delegating assignments to. It's a win-win situation. You are in search of people that are going to help your organization grow. Either there's growth or there's the determination that that person is not capable of being a leader in your organization. It's a win-win. A chieftain should surround himself with subordinates to whom he feels comfortable delegating assignments. Otherwise, he must perform the incumbencies of both his and their offices. There's no substantial growth unless you have a team. So you've got to take that chance. There's going to be trial and error, you're going to have trial and error. Some people you're going to put in positions of leadership, they're not going to work out. Other people you're going to put in positions of leadership, they're going to be a tremendous success. But you don't know unless you do it. But you got to keep your eye on the ball, of course. A chieftain should never punish a subordinate who has failed if he did his best to carry out a delegated responsibility. Most lessons are best learned in failure. When somebody fails, they go, okay, and then they have to learn, we need a new starting line, a new paradigm to get this thing to work. Let them learn the same way that you learn as an individual. Right? You don't give up on yourself if you gave it your best effort and it didn't work out. What do you do if you're smart, if you know what the right thing to do is you find a new starting line. Allow your people to do the same thing. Chieftains should encourage their subordinates to use creativity to fulfill delegated responsibilities. You know, one of the things you don't want to give everybody in minute detail, this is the way every single job gets done. What they need is a foundation. The foundation. I'll give you an example, all right? Let's take LeBron James or Steph Curry, all right? You see them make these fancy passes or these fancy moves or fancy shots. They're using their creativity to excel. But before they get to that level, they first have to have mastered the basics. You know that Steph Curry can dribble the ball like nobody's business, but before he does a tricky crossover dribble or behind the back dribble, he has mastered the basics. So once you've mastered the basics, then you are free to use your creativity to exceed expectations. Does that make sense? But before there's creativity, first the foundation must be laid. Subordinates will never develop their skills if their chieftains precisely direct them how to accomplish their delegated assignments. Enough said. You give somebody an assignment, you say, okay, let's be clear, this is what you want to do. Make sure they poly parrot it back to you what you want accomplished. and say, do you know how you're going to get that done? Yes, I do. You can say, all right, tell me how you're going to get it done. Or you can say, great, go do it. A wise chieftain expands his influence and ability to serve the nation only through the art of delegation. You can't do everything. The successful leader knows how to delegate responsibilities. Very simple. Once again, huge shout out Wes Roberts, Leadership Secrets of Attila the Hun. Next time, more leadership secrets. Always remember, hey, don't ration that passion, fashion the passion. I'm Eli's dad.